The Liberia Annual Conference of the United Methodist Church is, of course, in Africa, and there's been some drama there since the General Conference ended. That I've seen some footage, and maybe I'll try and overlay this later, of protests going on outside of the bishop's office. Bishop Quire is their bishop. I'm probably pronouncing it wrong. Quire, I think is how it's pronounced. But if you don't know where Liberia is, here's my map here. Here's northwestern Africa, and Liberia is a country right here. So here's the border, and Liberia was founded, I believe, as American former slaves going back and starting a country there, and it's had a fraught history, and it's not an easy place to live by American standards. I was trying to look up how many United Methodists are there, and I could not find a number. I was looking at Tom Lambrecht's article that I promoted a week or two ago, and all he says about Liberia, he groups it with Zimbabwe. He says lay leaders and other laity have staged demonstrations outside of the respective annual conference headquarters, clamoring for the bishops to hold a special session of the annual conference to consider the results of the general conference. Sentiment is strong for withdrawal in both conferences, but it remains to be seen what decision they will ultimately make and whether their bishops will hold annual conference sessions as they promised to prior to the general conference. So what's at stake here is right now, globally, wherever the United Methodist Church is, there is a conversation about, do we really want to maintain our fellowship with this body that seems indifferent to sexual morality, that actually seems to have betrayed the biblical position on governing ourselves sexually, and has not only normalized gay marriage. Now pastors can marry gay people. Now pastors can be in gay relationships and doing gay sex stuff. But also they've thrown out all of the language dealing with sexual immorality as pertains to clergy, which goes far broader than gay stuff. So there's just a lot, when you read your Bible, you see a lot of concern about how people behave themselves sexually. It's not just a couple clobber verses. It's a big part of the fabric, especially throughout the New Testament, but also clearly in the Old. So Liberians and Zimbabweans, many other United Methodists throughout the world are saying we need to at least have a conversation about leaving the United Methodist Church. So there have already been groups that have left. Côte d'Ivoire has left. Nigeria has not left. There's been some misinformation around that, but they're having that conversation. Democratic Republic of Congo, a lot have already left just individually and started their own global Methodist annual conference there. It's a messy process going on in different places. And Bishop Quire, and who's the Zimbabwean bishop? He spoke at General Conference, gave a really undiscerning sermon. Nyatiwa. Yeah. Both of these bishops are so loyal to the United Methodist Church. I don't know if there's anything the UMC could decide that would make them willing to leave the denomination at this point. Because, Nyatiwa, whenever he preached, he just talked about all the money that has been sent over and all the mission that they can do, and then just acted like it was the stupidest thing in the world to consider leaving the United Methodist Church, which is really, as I said before, undiscerning. So anyway, the thing I wanted to say before we get into the nitty-gritty here, interesting thing about, of course, Africa is not a monoculture. They have hundreds, thousands of cultures across the African continent. But there are certain general differences between what I've noticed the norms being in the West, Europe and North America, versus the norms in Africa. And one of the things that I've noticed is that that they honor their bishops more, they defer to their bishops more, they in talking about them, even when the bishop isn't listening, even when he's not part of whatever's going on, they honor their bishop. They use titles and reverence for their bishop. But they also push hard against their bishops. They're just more extreme than us in a lot of ways. Like in America, I don't recall the last time I heard about people camping outside of a bishop's office with signs and petitioning them hard, but that's what they've been doing in Liberia. I don't know if y'all remember, it was last year, Kenya, Ethiopia, their bishop, Wanda Beulah, he tried to stand in the way of disaffiliation, and they were not having it. They overruled the bishop. They made it happen. Um, and so it's quite a thing to watch as they simultaneously honor their bishops and then push really hard against their bishops. And in America, we're just like, oh, I was reporting on Bishop David Graves yesterday, and everybody's like, oh, he's phony. He's a wolf in sheep's clothing. But they haven't had any demonstration outside of his office, you know. So they dishonor him in their speech online, but then they don't show up. And well, the best that you've got is what I showed you yesterday, is people speaking to his face at annual conference, and that's not nothing. Like I want to acknowledge, like, Andy Wendland. He reached out to me later and said thank you, and I'm glad to do that. But I think we have something to learn from Africans. Here's what I hope happens in the Global Methodist Church. I hope that we are more like the Africans. I hope we honor our leadership more, and I hope we push back against them harder whenever they are not representing us well. So with that in mind, I'm going to show you, I doubt we're going to read through this whole letter, but there's Bishop Quire has refused to schedule a special called annual conference to consider leaving the United Methodist Church, and the people have been pushing back. And so can they meet without the bishop? And here's a letter that the Board of Ordained Ministry of Liberia published. And this has been, I found this more places than one. So can I move this up and down? Okay, so this is from the Board of Ordained Ministry. It's on their letterhead. I would have heard if it wasn't legitimate by now. So I'll read the first first two paragraphs and then skip to the last paragraph, because the long and short of it is they're going to hold it without their bishop, it looks like. So here's how it goes. It's addressed to all clergy and laity of the annual conference. It was dated 2 days ago. It says, on behalf of the Board of Ordained Ministry of the Liberia Annual Conference, the United Methodist Church, and the office of the conference secretary, that's as much as it'll let me zoom in, we bring you greetings of best wishes in the name of Jesus Christ, our resurrected and risen Savior of peace, tranquility, and reconciliation. We want to thank you for honoring our request to exercise calm and commit to prayer a week ago as we engage our resident bishop, Bishop Samuel J. Quire, Jr., to address the current impasse that has engulfed our church. About a week ago, the board put out a passionate message to the people called United Methodists in Liberia titled A Call to Prayer and Calm for the Way Forward for the Liberia Annual Conference. That call was necessary to ease tension and discontent that had ensued between and among members of the church, who demanded the leadership of the church to call for a special session of our annual conference after the postponed 2020 General Conference that was convened in Charlotte, North Carolina, for two purposes. One, to hear a report from its elected delegation to the postponed General Conference, and two, to make a decision on the Way Forward Committee's report that the 191st session postponed pending the return of the delegation from the General Conference. Notably, that was the decision of the 191st session of our annual conference based on appeal from our resident bishop following the report. Okay, so it's just talking about setting up this special session. I said I would skip that paragraph anyway. All right, I'm going to do the last two paragraphs just in case. As requested by our resident bishop, the board and other leaders of the church met with Bishop Quire this morning in furtherance of our consultation. Regrettably, we are deeply saddened to inform you that Bishop Quire has informed the leadership of the Board of Ordained Ministry that he will not call a special session despite the board's appeal. Our bishop has refused to listen both to the Board of Ordained Ministry, to which all elders of the UMC, irrespective of his or her status, is accountable, and to other leaders of the conference. In view of the foregoing... Oh, crap. Sorry, guys. In view of the foregoing, we call on all district superintendents, chairpersons of district committees on ordained ministry to be in readiness to attend a mass gathering of all clergy of the Liberia Annual Conference. You are also encouraged to bring along your lay members. The Board of Ordained Ministry will announce the date and venue for its visit to each district or region of our conference, along with other key leaders of our conference, including the delegation to the General Conference, to provide you with full report of the decisions of the General Conference that they took on behalf of the worldwide UMC. During our visit, you will also have the opportunity to vote per district or region on the report of the Way Forward Committee. Following this exercise, we shall all meet at our next annual conference and take a collective vote based on our individual district or regional votes we would have taken during our visits. Meanwhile, we ask every committee on ordained ministry of each district to work along with the district superintendent to coordinate the schedule for our visit, along with the chair of the Board of Ordained Ministry and a secretary of our annual conference. Thank you. And then it's written by someone named George Wilson Jr. He's the chair, and then signed by Reverend James Labala. I don't know either of those guys. So we skipped some details there, but what I get from this letter is not that they're going to hold their own special called session without their bishop, which is what I'd heard from, I think, Chris Ritter summarized that. So there might have been a development since then, but it sounds like what they're doing is the members of the Board of Ordained Ministry are going to be traveling around to each district. And I think I read that they have 20 districts. I'm pretty sure they have 20 districts. So this is like a full-time job. They're going to be going around and giving reports on what was said and done at General Conference, and then taking preliminary votes on their sentiments there. That's what I think I gathered here. And then they're not going to have a special called session, but they're going to insist that at their next regularly scheduled session, they take a vote on whether or not to leave the United Methodist Church. I'm pretty sure that's what that just said. So damage control is the order of the day now. And here is the article by News. Liberian bishop counters misinformation. This was published yesterday. And I guess that's Bishop Quire. Oh, and I need to make these words bigger. All right, so here's the key points. Bishop Samuel Quire of Liberia responded to protests following General Conference's removal of restrictions on LGBTQ people. He stressed that the United Methodist Church in Liberia will not conduct any weddings or ordinations of self-avowed practicing homosexuals. Meanwhile, some Liberian United Methodists are urging the bishop to call a special session to determine whether or not the conference remains in the denomination. But a document purporting that the conference will hold such a meeting is not authentic. Okay, so we need to skip to the section dealing with that document, because that's probably the document it's talking about is the one that just went out. What Bishop Quire is trying to do, what many of the bishops over there are going to try to do, and so I don't know if you guys have seen my interview with Rob Renfro, but we talked about why are African bishops refusing to remain faithful, biblically faithful on this. And his answer was, look, you have to understand, when you understand how poor Africa is, and then all of the things that American money makes possible for Africa, then to shut that off is just insane. You know, we're talking about orphanages, we're talking about schools, we're talking about hospitals. You know, of course, biblical faithfulness is more important than any of that stuff. But this is not. I mean, yes, the bishops are very wealthy over there, and yeah, there's a lot of corruption there. But even so, like, this has real world implications for people on the ground there, and so it's hard to stand on principle to that degree, the degree that's required. Anyway, the thing that they're trying to do is say, look, the Americans can go to hell in a handbasket. We're going to maintain biblical faithfulness over here. We got regionalization passed. They're going to leave us alone. We're going to leave them alone. And, you know, if it were a bunch of worldly people, fine, that would work. But whenever you have the Bible, in particular 1 Corinthians, it's written about the nature of the church. It's interconnected and we're mutually interdependent, you know. And so it's not really an option to sever yourself that way. So Quire is saying, we're not going to do gay stuff over here, so don't worry. I mean, that is a theologically undiscerning position. So, all right, let's see if we can't find the portion in this article dealing with this letter that we just read. So apparently Quire just held a briefing on June 7th But Quire emphasized that the actions of the General Conference do not alter the Liberia Conference's own marriage and ordination policies. He also said General Conference made decisions in the interest of the church dealing with differences among its members. Let's skip a paragraph. However, a document being spread around social media purporting that the Liberia Conference will hold a special session is not authentic. Asked if there will still be a protest if the bishop and church leadership do not hold a special session, Mensa, Alfred Kwaba Mensa, he's one of the leaders of the group calling for the meeting. He said, "We will decide what we'll do next." Okay, so they haven't made any declaration. At this point, the Liberia Conference's next scheduled session is its regular session in February of next year. So, okay, I'm thinking that the document we just read is not whatever document this is responding to, because the document we just read said that they're going to go from district to district and then make a decision at this February conference. I'm pretty sure that's what we read. Man, I need to check it. If with this much, we call district superintendents chairpersons of district committees. There is to attend a mass gathering of all clergy. So they are okay. So yeah, okay. The Board of Ordained Ministry will announce the date and venue for its visit. Well, okay, so it's saying a mass gathering of all clergy of the Liberia Annual Conference. So, yeah, this is what's confusing me. They have that sentence saying, okay, get ready, we're going to have a big meeting, but then it's saying we're going to each district. Okay, so... Okay, so, but it does say they're going to go district to district reporting on what happened. Following this exercise, we shall all meet at our next annual conference and take a collective vote. That suggests the February date, doesn't it? Yeah, that's confusing to me, but I think I read it right. It sounds to me like they're planning on moving at the last possible moment in February at the regularly scheduled meeting, but they're reserving the option of scheduling their own meeting before that. That seems to me to be what they're saying. In the meantime, Quire used his press briefing to explain what the General Conference did and did not do. Since the bishop's June 7th meeting, some have taken to social media to push for a special session. One of those calls comes from the Reverend George D. Wilson Jr., chairman. Okay, this is the letter for sure. Chairman of the conference's Board of Ordained Ministry. He posted a letter titled "A Call to Prayer and Calm for the Way Forward." In the letter, Wilson said that the church leadership needed to call a session to deal with the concerns coming from the General Conference. The letter also said the United Methodists in Liberia need to hear the report from the General Conference delegates and formally take action on the Way Forward Committee report. Last year, Quire set up the committee, which includes Liberians who want to separate from the UMC and those who don't. Wilson sent a second letter on June 19th. Okay, this is the letter. To inform clergy and laity that the Board of Ordained Ministry and other church leaders met with the bishop that morning, and Quire maintained his stance that he will not call a special session. In the letter, Wilson also noted the board would visit each district in the conference, along with other leaders and delegates, to the General Conference to provide a report on the action taken at the Legislative Assembly and to vote on the report on the Way Forward Committee. Reverend Caleb S.G. Doma, a leader of the group dubbed Stay UMC, said there is no reason to rush with the special session when people are not yet fully educated on regionalization, another possible change coming out of General Conference. Under regionalization, it explains regionalization there. Here's Doma. We need to spend the next 7 to 8 months educating our people about the decision of the General Conference and how to go about the ratification process. So they're talking about regionalization there, which is, each region can be separate and do things their own way. That was approved by the General Conference, but it has to be ratified across all the annual conferences across all the world. 2/3 of all the delegates have to vote in favor of it. Otherwise, regionalization doesn't pass. Quire spoke about regionalization, part of his press briefing, skipping down, but whether regionalization is ratified or not, Quire said Liberia will not conduct any weddings or ordinations of gay people. So it's not going to speak about I guess he hasn't responded to this letter. Yeah. Well, that might have been a waste of my time then, because I was expecting the bishop to say something like, "This is not a legitimate letter. You shall not meet. If they put out a call, you shall not meet." He didn't say anything like that. Um, there's another article I found. Oh, but it was published on the 10th, so it's definitely not about. Oh my gosh, look at that font. Oh, so this is a statement put out by the bishop on June 7th. This might have been his remarks at the press uh, conference. So it looks like we've reviewed whatever documents are available right now. We could have just read the Board of Ordained Ministry letters. So it looks like there's going to be a prolonged campaign to disaffiliate from the United Methodist Church, even though the bishop is kind of refusing to let them have that conversation. He's taken the tack. We're not going to do the gay stuff. They're regionalizing. They're letting us do our own thing. This is a non-issue, and a lot of people who are reading their Bibles over there are saying it's an issue, and we're not going to let this go. So let me state for the final bit my admiration for the laity involved there and the clergy who are making this happen. It sounds like a lot of the district superintendents are on board from that letter we read. They're going to be leading this campaign to educate the people, and we'll see what Liberians decide. But I think what Americans have found appalling so far is just how much money does not motivate average Africans in the United Methodist Church. It seems to be a big factor for their bishops, many of whom don't even live over there. They live in the United States. They get paid ungodly sums of money. They live in big compounds, or whenever they come back to their native regions, they live like kings. The incentive is to stay with the United Methodist Church. It looks like average Africans are not nearly as compromised theologically by these things. So I wish I could guess at the size of the Liberian United Methodist Church, but what I assume is going to happen is in each of these regions that leave, there are going to be some holdout stay UMC churches that want that money, and that the United Methodist Church is going to establish new regions, or like in Nigeria, Andy Emmanuel has tried to put himself in the position to be Bishop of Nigeria. I think the vast majority of Nigerians are going to leave, and then Andy's going to be left behind leading it. And they're not going to grow, and they're going to be seen as a joke by other Africans who know that they are tied to licentious Americans. So anyway, hopefully we know how to pray for Liberia. It looks like they're going to go through a prolonged period of just this tug of war with their bishop, and it sounds to me like they're serious and that they'll prevail. So God bless their work.